welcome, 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 powerful CEOs. Yep, switching it up a little bit because I want you to really embody who you are and what you're doing here and why you bother listening to this great podcast. Because you're releasing your future self. You're releasing her now. She
Mm.
exists now. So, welcome to another episode. I'm super excited to have Emily Taradash with me here today. Emily is just like my new best friend who isn't, but I just like love her energy and love her story, of course, and especially like how comfortable you are, Emily, with when you show up. So we actually did a meet and greet call a little while ago, and we just had such a good time. And I just feel so good in your energy, right? And so it's a pleasure to have you here today, having you come from the theater world. Um, just such a fun, dynamic, bustling, highly creative place. And now leveraging that skill set to come into a coaching business and doing stand-up comedy so you can still play in those energies and be true to yourself, but monetize your skills, your abilities, your passions in a new way that fit your life better than the world of theater has a tendency to
Yes.
provide.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That was really great. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I think I'm a joy-centered person.
Mhm,
I'm a
mhm,
joy-centered coach. That's why I love helping people fall in love
mhm.
and find that, sort of Stella gutter groove back energy. Um, but yeah, I think that I have always loved, I've always loved making art and beauty, and I'm curious. I'm always curious about people, and it was so fun to talk to you. And when we had our Zoom call, I was actually like al fresco. I was
Yeah,
I was outside, and
yeah.
I don't know how many Zoom calls I've actually done outside, especially in the winter,
Yeah.
but I was very attentive to you because it was a little cool. But thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, it's just so great to connect with you and, meet yet another powerhouse who's in the beginning stages of business, but is very, like I said, bringing that certainty. And that's that different energy that's going to help support you through the beginning. And so, the initial conversation is going to be around how we're grown ass women, but we tend to kind of forget once we transition into running our own business because it's so emotional. So let's get into that conversation, but first tell us, a bit in your own words of who you are, who you serve, and why you love it.
Thank you. I'm Emily Taradash, and I am a coach and stand-up comic. And I recently relaunched my business. I started as a burnout coach, and people started to come to me for, I think I want to quit my job. It was the Great Resignation. I had done it, and so a lot of people are coming to me, sort of thinking that they were gonna, take a stand and do something different. And some of them did. Um, and some of them were like, well, actually, I haven't, my husband's frustrating me and we haven't been on a date in a month or 2 months or 3 months or a lot longer. And I was like, well, I think that might be something that you want to do. I think putting joy first in your life
Mhm.
is really important, especially in the deluge of 24-hour news cycle. Um, and all the things that happen in life, like life is always in session. So, as I went along, people were constantly bringing up relationships, and I also have a big relationship story as far as um, before I met my now husband. I was in a relationship with a sushi chef who we were planning to move to Japan together and all this stuff. And it was very, very hot, very fast, which, there were lots of red flags that I painted green. But in 2015, in January, I put him on a plane, never heard from him again.
Mm.
And that is a very difficult thing to overcome
Mhm.
because,
Abandonment and like lack of closure and worthiness and
oh yeah, all that, all all that in a bag of
negativity.
chips. Um, Yeah, there's so many dangling questions. Like
Mhm.
when someone goes to that epically,
Yeah.
uh, you're sort of just like left holding the bag going, well, what just happened?
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
Um, and people would say all sorts of things to comfort me, like, you dodged a bullet, And to be really honest, I was like more upset about not being in Japan.
Had a girl.
Um, but the thing that was really tough was that because I had been planning to be abroad, I had I had no work lined up at all.
Right.
And I had just finished grad school like the year that fall. I graduated. And um, so I had sort of been very held together for 3 years, sort of like
Yep.
tethered in a way that I had not been tethered as an adult.
Mhm.
And I felt very untethered in that way because I was sort of looking for the relationship to like complete me and finish it off and be like, oh, okay, great. Well, I'll do this and then I'll get a job and then we'll travel the
Mhm.
world and then,
Mhm.
and so then it was really the universe was like, hey, guess what? No, like it's you.
Mhm.
It's you. You have to
Mhm.
show up for you.
Mhm.
And I started doing a lot of healing, and really like nurturing myself in a way that I had not been able to do before, not been conscious of. Um, I started writing and I did meditation and I would have like solo dance parties in my little cottage and really like just getting into like pausing and creating and like leading from the heart.
Mhm.
And you'd think that having a career in theater would be that, but it's not really because when you're a costume designer, you're constantly creating for the world of the play that you're working on.
Outward.
And, it people think it's very creative and that, like, oh my God, you made all this. And so there's these like sort of old badges of honor of like
Mhm.
productivity and speed
Mhm.
and, the technical ability to make things. Um, Frankly, if you're working with a good budgeted show, you should have a whole shop of people to do those things with and for you,
Mhm.
and that the designer makes choices. That's really what it is.
Okay.
Um, but there's only so many ways to make a yellow apron for scene five,
Yes, so it's not really like dreaming up some rainbow discotheque apron with sequins. It's
Right.
practical and
It's more like here's your menu and you can make
mhm.
these things in these slightly different ways,
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, or you can buy them or change them or borrow them from somebody or whatever. But anyway, it was a very I appreciate that career and I'm glad
Yeah.
that I did it, but
Yeah.
uh I needed to step away from it at that time and I did and I started acting a bit during that time, which was very healing and
Mm.
healing to be like around a community of
Mm.
other artists who were there because they loved it and then that sort of meandered away into a bunch of different shows over the course of the year. And then I got a job working at a theater back in Rhode Island. So I came back home and I met my husband at the opening night party.
Oh my gosh. So
And
that.
I was not looking for him. Like,
Here's here's what I just heard happen. Life was going according to Emily's plan, but Emily wasn't fully dropped in to her deepest, truest self. So then life was like, "Hey, Chicky Poo, I need you to wake up because there's so much more available to you." So this is interesting because in my view, we can either have life bring experiences to us that uncomfortably and strongly challenge us to rise and change, or we can intentionally pursue that self development, spiritual growth, holistic lifestyle, and, you know, not, well, I mean, like life has suffering, you can't avoid it, but it's going to come. So is it something that you want to embed as part of regular practice, or, face these forks in the road that that catapult you into it? And it's going to be different for everybody. But in this conversation, we can start to identify the ways that self-development or, expansion come up. And now for you, certainly it's far more part of the norm, right? And so when life events happen, you're now, it's not as tumultuous to respond and deal with the the things that are happening.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up because I'm in the midst of a huge life change again, yet again,
Mhm,
uh,
mhm,
and moving to a new place and having to downsize quite a bit.
mhm,
So now I am, sometimes your toolbox, even if it's pretty big, um, needs an upgrade. It
stretches. Yeah.
needs a vacuuming.
Mhm. Yep.
And and you have to continue to go with it because there are
Mhm,
these
mhm,
opportunities that come up. And what I what I think is a strength that I recommend to people is to like lean out of the judgment, you know, lean out of the judgment. We are moving to Kansas in the middle of the country, literally in the heartland.
mhm,
And there's so many people who were like, "Oh my God, you're moving there? Why?"
mhm.
And we got there and we were like, "It's awesome here. Like, it's beautiful. It's sunny almost every day."
Yeah.
And outside our window, there's this field with coyotes and rabbits and
Mm,
hawks, and it's like very alive. The
mhm,
sunsets are amazing.
mhm.
And, and the food is great and the people are kind. So, uh, that's coming from a lot of people who have never been there
Mm.
before.
Yeah, yeah. Woo,
Now, and
Kansas.
can't fathom
Mhm,
that
mhm,
that change, that
mhm,
shift.
mhm.
And so I love I love the change. I love the ability to go to a new place and have a new experience. And,
Yes.
you know,
Mm,
everybody asks me like, "Well, is this it?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
yes. Yeah. It's next.
It's
It's
next, but like
next. Yeah.
well, will you be back? Well, I mean, like there's planes. So yeah, like it's 3 hours,
Yeah.
not a big deal.
So this, like, people get, we're changing, we're experimenting, but we stay still kind of in our comfortable little status quo. And while we ourselves as an individual might be changing our internal world and resilience, we don't
Right.
necessarily change the external. So yeah, you definitely stretch it more when you continue to bring, if a life event's not coming to you, maybe you're pursuing one that will expand you even more. But I mean, how fun. It's just for, shits and giggles, basically, right? Like, just go and see what happens and
Yes.
have an experience, because there's so much available in the world. So how fun is that gonna be? And that sounds really romantic. I don't know anything about Kansas other than the joke out of Friends when Chandler fell asleep in the meeting and had to move there. Like, it's, and of course, The Wizard of Oz, but um, just play with it. And that is an energy that I'm, kind of daily absorbing, because it's very relaxed, it's playful, and it detaches me from any outcome. So,
Mm,
we're raising a family, we're kind of stuck where we're stuck for now, but I want to stay open to opportunities that may or may not involve moving, and I might not recognize them if I'm not working my inner system to just be playful in, like, the buffet of life, right?
yes. Yes. In the golden corral of life.
Mhm,
We we want to be able to go. Maybe today it's
mhm,
pickles, maybe it's pudding. I don't
mhm,
know. But like
mhm.
maybe it's both and you're
Yeah.
jiving on that. But like I think that whenever there's a feeling of stuckness, it's an opportunity to
Mhm,
look at it and go, is this really true? Like, am I really stuck?
mhm,
And and I think this is so funny because people bring this up a lot about children.
Mm,
Well, I have kids and I can't because I have the kids. Kids are resilient. Kids can change. They're dynamic. You just decide, like we came on this call and you were like, you're so certain. You just
mhm.
decide that you're doing it and they're like, okay, and they
Yeah,
do it and they
yeah.
go. And it's obviously depending on the kid, um, sometimes more complex than with other kids.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think I love to travel because my parents took me places when I was little, like
Mhm,
I was on a plane at 6 months old. I was going,
mhm, mhm.
jet set and baby.
Yeah.
Um, and I know a lot of people, especially coaches, who are like, hey, next year I'm traveling with the kids. So I'm going to be in
Mhm.
Turkey at this time. And then we're going to South Africa and in China, like,
Yeah.
and they're homeschooling and they're doing it. So it can be done, you know, and I think that's the cool thing about a lot of people who work in theater. Crystal Pite, who I met when I was in grad school, she came and did a show. She's a very famous Canadian dancer and choreographer.
Okay.
Um, she had her little family and they just toured around all over the place
Mm,
and doing the work. So there's a lot of ways to live. There's a lot of ways to
yes.
parent.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways to love.
Yes.
And it's really about like what's working for you, like what's working for you and doing the least harm, you know.
Mhm,
Um, that's something that I'd love to address more as a collective
mhm,
about doing the least harm. We're in a very challenging time right now on the planet with just like not trusting things.
mhm, mhm,
And I'm speaking from a place of having trust betrayed, very deeply. But uh, I trusted me, you
mhm.
know, and I trusted me to be able to make a mistake and, choose again,
Yeah.
because that's what I get to do.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't have feelings about it, was sad and went through it, but I didn't I didn't decide to live there. It wasn't the final destination, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. You know, when you mention that ghost experience and kids, people are saying like, "Oh, it's a dodge bullet and stuff." There's this placating and downplaying of the experiences that is more comfortable than avoiding the difficult reality of what happened. And like, Emily, man, I'm so heartbroken for you. Are you okay? Shall
Mm,
we just come and eat ice cream and hang out on the couch? That sucks. And I'm just so sorry that happened instead of trying to band aid over it. Like, and that bottles up a lot of unprocessed experiences, emotions that can choke us up and make us more timid
mm,
about trying different things, about going out there again, about, getting back on stage for another performance. Just because
mm.
you got booed at one doesn't mean anything about you or what else is coming that's that person's story, right? Just like Mr. Chef, that was he's got to live with that for the rest of his life too,
Sure. Yeah.
right? But allowing space to go into those not great things, like you said, it gave you an opportunity to heal, to do deeper work, to be more Emily, right?
Mhm.
And this pony up and truck on thing, it's not it's not as serving,
Yeah.
like there's a time and a place for it where you have to just be direct action under certain circumstances, but there's other times where we need to really process that and absorb it into the next rendition.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you're saying that, I'm like reminded about like that is such a New England way of processing things, of
Oh,
just
just
being
like
like,
cut it
oh,
off at the yeah.
well,
Mhm,
gotta keep going,
mhm,
like
mhm, mhm.
good,
Next,
well,
next, next, yeah.
next, next,
Mhm,
and that was how I was raised. And
mhm, mhm.
certainly like the pool that I swam in, and that has served me well in a lot of ways in
Yeah,
life because I'm like, oh, okay, but I was at a point at that time that I really did need to stop and process things, because that was the biggest, like, you have to change for me,
Mhm.
because I really wanted to. I discovered in that relationship that I really wanted to have a family, and that I really wanted to, like, be with someone who, had an interesting career and had stuff going on in their lives, and that they wanted me in it, da da da. And I wanted someone who was going to walk their talk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he did in many ways, but then he couldn't, for whatever reason, couldn't hang. And that's fine, like, I'm glad. Like, not glad about how he did it, but that's
Yeah.
that's on him. That's not on me. So um I think that's the big switch, is not taking blame for things that you are not responsible for.
That's right. But then owning things that you are responsible for,
Right. And the
which,
things I am,
yeah.
right, like making the choice and
Yeah.
going, oh, okay, well, I let me look and see, like, what has happened the past few people that I've been dating.
Mm.
Oh,
Mhm.
look, they've all gotten on planes and flown away at some point. Hmm,
Stop going to the airport, Emily.
I know. Maybe it's like, Emily, go to the airport, without anyone, go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, stop bringing people to the airport. But it was um, it was just an opportunity for me to really, like, stop and pause, and
Mhm.
actually, like, created the space, because I didn't have something I could lose myself in,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a job where I could just go, oh, I have to
Yeah.
be all in the job now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wherever you go, there you are. And there I was. And that year it snowed once a week. It snowed a foot every
Mhm.
week
Mhm.
um in Boston. And there were some people who, like, just left their car on the street until spring, and, like,
Mhm.
just, it was totally buried. It was a
Yeah.
wild blizzard year. Um, and so that was sort of like the weather cocooning me.
Hibernation. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And um I was able to, like, decide, okay, like, who am I? What is my life going to look like? And what's my life going to look like even if I never meet someone?
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it the way I want to make it. And I deleted all my apps that were distracting anyway.
Mhm.
And um I think during the time between this guy getting on a plane and meeting my husband, I think I went on, like, 2 or 3 dates with people, and, like, it was just too soon. Every single one of them was, like, way too soon. But trying, like, going and, like, okay, we'll see, like,
Mhm.
we'll see, but having very little expectation. And this is, I think, a thing that we really have to do, as far as dating is concerned, is, like, go get back to, like, brass tacks. And the brass tacks are, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you love? Are you spending time on those things?
Mhm.
And you should be part of the things that you love. So you have to give to yourself and be able to practice receiving, and practice receiving these, like, wonderful gifts of of other people's attention, and showing up in their life,
Mhm.
um, and they're showing up in yours. So I love that. I love that about, like, being really 3D, like, in the 3D world, because
Mhm.
we're, like, on this planet right now, and there are so many amazing people. And
Yeah.
showing up with that attitude, because that is true. Like, everywhere I go, I meet amazing people
Mhm.
who I mean, we met, but, like, we
Yeah.
didn't meet in the 3D, but I can't wait until we do.
Right.
Like, um, but I trust and believe that that'll happen when it's meant to.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, getting back into the practice of trusting other people is self-trust.
Yes. And
So
the
go ahead.
things that you spoke about around looking for a relationship still apply when in a relationship too, because we can lose ourselves in another person. And based on, the inherent characteristics that we have, we can give them all to somebody else, and then you get this disbalance, which is why people show up to you saying, well, I'm in a loveless marriage now. It's like, well, where did you not maintain intention and energy towards ensuring that you guys could still be who you are and grow together in your journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about that. I mean, I'm blessed to my husband is like amazing, I have to say. He is uh holding it down in Kansas while I'm like getting this
Mhm,
house on the market in Rhode
mhm,
Island. But also, he too had been on a journey for a while. He'd been divorced and single for about 10 years when we met. And so he was really like also calling me in and also like really ready for a serious relationship. And like
mhm,
I was clearing the deck so that I could receive someone who was ready for
mhm,
me.
mhm,
Um, and I think that the old paradigm is like, oh, you complete me, but that's not it. I talk to
mhm,
people about the 100% plus.
mhm,
You have to show up as close to 100% as you can.
mhm.
And they have to show up as close to 100% as they can. And then together you're creating
Yeah,
this 100% plus,
yeah.
like you're not creating, it's not 50-50. It's like it's so much more than that. And
Adding to each other to
adding,
enhance who you are and
right.
like encourage more of that to come out.
Yes. Yes.
You're both
Nurturing.
already whole.
You're both
And
already whole. And I never would have met my husband on the apps ever,
right.
ever.
Mhm,
Like just certain boxes would not have been ticked.
mhm,
And he is just a very lovely, kind, gentle person.
mhm,
And um, that's a big focus for him is gentleness, which um, I think the dating apps sometimes make it really like competitive. Like
mhm,
it makes it sort of like a sport to go out. I certainly was treating it that way, to be
mhm.
honest.
Yeah,
Because
gamified. Yeah,
it's fun,
yeah, yeah.
like
Online shopping, right?
online shopping. Who needs pickleball when you have, okay, Cupid, right? Like just like
Yeah,
woo.
yeah.
But you're affecting people. Like
Mhm,
you're affecting people in their lives. And
mhm,
um you also need to have a sensitivity about that. And what I think a lot of people get lost in the fear. I see a lot of people lost in fear just generally in life, whether they're dating or not. Um, and believing more about like what they're hearing than what they're like seeing on the ground day to day with people, right? Because we spend so much of our time sort of like separate and detached now. So we're like, well, how am I going to meet people? Well,
mhm.
like, what do you like to do outside of your house?
There's some elements of that, so dating and building a business, not
Right,
entirely
right.
different, right? And
No.
and I've been like, "Well, just go and put some posters up, go and talk to some people, host an
Posters up, yeah.
in-person event," like, because like you said at the beginning, the online space is so noisy, it's such a big marketplace out there, and you're just looking for a few amongst the many, so, you
Yes.
gotta really kinda get down to where they are, and, when I encounter single folks who are looking for a partner, I always encourage them to just go out into the community and find some activities in the community that, like you said, align to who they are,
Right.
because then you're more likely to meet somebody who's, already compatible to you. Like, if you're doing volunteering at the animal shelter and so are they, then you've got some core qualities that are gonna create a nice platform to flourish a relationship on. And, there's nothing like technology is amazing, it allows for incredible things like this,
Sure.
but there's just
Sure.
some old school principles that I don't think should ever be considered outdated.
Right. Right. I I think I want to just the volunteering, it's
Mm.
got to be something you actually like to do.
Oh, yeah.
It can't just be like, well, I'm here to volunteer because maybe there's some
To meet
single
someone.
ladies, like, where there are single ladies, yoga classes,
Yeah.
like Like, look around
Yeah.
and, doing comedy, like I see a lot of single men. I
Hmm.
see a lot of single men doing comedy.
Mm.
And, um, and talking, sort of complaining about how they're single, but they don't really want to, they don't really
Want a
want to meet
relationship.
someone. Then they'd have to like get rid of that bit.
Hmm.
But,
Hmm.
like you have to read the room. I think that's a great thing that comedy has taught me is like going out there, seeing who's in the audience and not trying to please them,
Hmm.
but expecting, okay, like this joke is more for you, seeing how it goes and having the attitude of experimentation, always, like
Hmm.
always keeping this attitude of like, I'm a scientist, we're just experimenting, detaching from the emotion of it because that's the ego. The ego, like,
Yeah.
it wants us to get like really like hooked in and
Hmm.
like all gossipy and oh my God, what's that person doing? I can't believe it. And like, and it works you up into a froth and then you stay in your house all the time.
Hmm.
Um, but like everything is out there, like
Yeah.
it's all out there and um being observant, like, and being genuinely curious about other people and being excited about what you're doing. Like, there's nothing sexier than like someone who is actually excited about what they like.
Right.
That's very sexy. It's very appealing when it's like, oh, you really like dinosaurs? Great.
Yeah.
Like, you're like so into it. Great. You're at the
Yeah.
science museum, like doing a thing. You're bringing your niece and nephew. I don't know. Like, if you're really into that, like, do it.
Hmm.
Like, do
Full
it.
on with whole heart, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
it's true to you. And
Yes.
then you're not people pleasing or judging yourself against, again, what other people are going to think. You're in full expression. And that's what you're describing as attractive is just somebody really thrilled and excited in what they're showing up to do, owning their stage, whether or
Yeah.
not there's an audience around it, because it feels right for them. And that comes with, giving yourself permission, the self-trust, the continued practice of it, even if it feels awkward at first. Because in my business journey and in my life journey, I was always a very timid child. And even 10 or so years ago, people were like, oh, what? You're shy? And I'm like, yeah, I'm shy, but I've developed skills around that. I would say I'm less shy now. I've outgrown my shyness a certain amount, but I can still be that, right? And but just certain qualities are there doesn't mean that we're trapped by them. We can work on them if we want to. We can expand ourselves, yes, again, if we want to, by practicing and just by being really real with what it is that's inside. And some people express that through writing where they're not necessarily public, but then their product is enjoyed very publicly, right? So there's different ways of being able to do that. At coaches, if you are more comfortable pre-recording a program and then selling it, that gets your work out into the world and gets you building the confidence and the flow of creativity around your passion and teaching, without having to have a live exposure. But then you'll find once you start practicing live, it will become more and more comfortable too. So you can do these graduated steps towards um, putting yourself out there in dating, in business, in your relationship at home too, right? Like if you haven't had that date, why don't you guys just watch a movie or play a card game one night?
Yeah, I love the card game and I love the getting away from the TV because it's, I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I'm watching something with my husband, like we are both scrolling away on our phones, like we're not
Mm-hmm.
watching the thing
Hmm.
really. It's very unusual that we do um give our 100% attention to that. So something that you really have to give your attention to makes it like a higher quality
Hmm.
interaction.
Hmm.
And um, you know, anything like, oh, okay, well, even just like taking a walk around the block and
Hmm.
talking about your day.
Yeah.
And I think that like we've made a date have to be
Yeah.
something that's like,
Pinterest, big and like extravagant and scheduled and primped and propped,
right,
right? Like,
right.
no. No, you just need to be face to face on
Yeah,
each other,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You
Yeah,
just need to be looking at each other and talking and being like, "Hey, how's it going?
yeah.
Oh, you like that? Well, how are you feeling? Oh, you want
Mhm.
this? Great." Like it's just about presence. Like
Yeah.
so much of, I'd say my business is mostly about presence.
Mhm.
You know, um, I think the business of coaching is about how people show up. That's
Mhm.
like the whole thing. The whole thing is like, how are you showing up? Um, that's the industry. Are you showing up? Like, in which way do you need to today? So getting out of your comfort zone and like sort of, that's why cold plunges are like being touted as this sort of
Mhm.
cure-all about things, right?
Mhm.
Is like it's getting you out of your comfort zone like
Mhm.
immediately in the morning.
Mhm.
And I don't do them. So I'll just be
Yeah,
very,
me neither.
I don't do them. Sorry. I have very cold feet. So maybe I should do them. I don't know. But
Yeah.
the it's just about getting yourself out there. And if if you're a shy, if you're a naturally shy person, then you're sort of always sort of stepping out of your comfort zone and then expanding the comfort zone and making it
Mhm.
larger, which is
Mhm.
great. But if you're an extroverted person and you're constantly, we have a really big comfort zone already. When I started doing stand up, people were like, "You're so good at this." And I'm like, "I've been on stage since I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
Like, this is my home. This
Yeah.
feels like my living room.
Yeah. I'm used to it.
I'm
Yeah.
used to it. Now I'm just telling my story and I'm writing my stuff as opposed to speaking someone else's lines or singing someone else's songs and trying to fit into a character, which I wanted to be an actor for a long time,
Mhm.
but I actually find that so limiting now to like want to embody someone else.
Mm.
I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm excited to be here as me,
As me. There you go. Yeah. I am the person I wanna be on stage.
Right? I'm the person who wants to be on stage. Right, right.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
do something about it
Yeah.
if I want to change,
Yeah.
But I can't do anything about the playwright who's been dead for 500 years,
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I love that. Be the person you wanna be on stage, right? When we're kids, we're so carefree, we're not thinking about self-consciousness or people pleasing necessarily at the early ages. I'm starting to see some patterns of that in my 5-year-old already, and so, you know, trying to meet her there and keep her in the empowered state, but tapping into that levity and having fun
Yeah.
in life, in business, in marriage. Like there's times hubby and I would just laugh our butts off over the most mundane things, and then we're just pleasantly surprised and end up laughing at ourselves more
Yeah.
about laughing at what we're laughing at, right?
Yeah.
And finding different ways to connect to that joy with yourself, with other people, with work, establishing rhythms that are going to serve you and keep you in that sort of higher up
Mm,
space and energy, right? Not the burnout. Like, certainly, I love to produce content. I love to work content like programs, teaching, whatever. And I can get very lost in that. But I've learned over the last few years that other things come at a price of that.
mm.
And, my family is my priority, myself is my priority, my relationships, and having a joyful life that then includes creating meaningful work, but isn't solely based around that.
Absolutely. Can't be solely based around, none of those things exist in a little, tunnel.
It's an
And
old paradigm, right? This 9 to 5 construct of working, of hustling for money and all of that comes from like the industrious times
yes.
that we know don't have to play under those constructs anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a lot to that as far as I grew up in a family. I'm a first generation from my dad, but I'm like a founding family on my mother's side, so in the US. Um, And so people were coming here as farmers, right? And
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
they were coming to the US to farm because that was seen as wealth and the
Mhm.
ability to have land,
Mhm.
and which they were, taking from Native Americans. And that rhythm of farming, right? I think actually is much more of what like I live by now than the rhythm of, oh, you go to the factory and there's
Mhm.
bells to tell you when to work and there's bells
Mhm.
to tell you when to stop working, and bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And my mother's family were also mill workers and, transitioned from farming to mill work, but also
Mhm.
like had a farm, continued to have farms, even though they worked in the mill.
Uh-huh.
And so you're
Right.
just working all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah.
You're just working all the time. And I see people in the modern paradigm, especially married couples, doing this with houses where you're like trying to save money. And so then like you're working all day long and then you're working on your house all the
House.
time.
Yeah.
And like in your free time, you're always working. And then you have kids and
Mhm.
they need to be in every single activity and they go to 5 different things and you're just driving them like you're just a taxi service. So this is something that like the intentionality of being present is really revolutionary when we're looking at that. And we have to look back and see what we're coming from, because it's not about blame. It's just about like, oh, why am I doing this? Where's this coming from in my world? The
A
other side,
greater awareness, right? A
just
greater awareness to analyze and
yeah,
make a choice around, does that work, or
right.
do I want to switch it up a little bit because it worked for them ish, but is it going to work for me for my next multiple decades of existence, right?
Yeah, and that also switches up the paradigm of retirement
Hmm.
because,
Hmm.
my dad uh worked in finance and was working until he was 90 two
Oh,
years ago,
oh,
and every day full time in the office, all through the pandemic in the office. And so again, like he loved it and
hmm.
he can't really let it go. He's still glued to
Well,
the
after that
market.
many years,
Oh
it's,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But
there's no separation. I
his
can't
whole,
wait to leave work at the end of the day.
yeah,
I have
no.
a day job, right? I'm like, oh, 4:30. Woo!
And that's really a different paradigm. I mean, he's from the silent generation, so it's a really different
Yeah.
generational experience. But the other thing too is that for him, work is social and it is about
Mhm.
connecting with people,
Mhm.
highly relational. So I have this example of a parent who the whole business was about relationships and tending to other people's money, about like, how are you, what's going on in your life, how can I be
Mhm.
of service to you, oh, I'm so sorry, like going to the hospital, going to funerals, going to people's graduations,
Mm.
like being an extended family member. That the work life balance and the work life separation for him, like it just didn't really exist.
Mhm.
And then there was, my mother is an artist and we grew up on a farm, so always having livestock. And so that was something that she was very passionate about. And she loved being of the earth and being present and cyclical and seasonal.
Mhm.
Um, and more traditional, like roles, more traditional gender roles in their relationship, but they're also 19 years apart in age.
Mm.
So
Wow.
it's a very different dynamic. We have a blended family from my dad's first marriage and us, as far as the kids are concerned. So, you know, I think that that just gave me such a great example of there's a lot of ways to live,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You don't you don't have to fit into one paradigm. Um, and I think with business, it can it's gonna ebb and flow. It is cyclical. It is cyclical. So like just leaning into that instead
Mhm.
of, I'm not a person who is gonna do well at a 9 to 5 job. I'm just not. I need to be able to come and go, you know, I come from traveling salesman before that, you know, generations past. So really like looking, investigating like who you came from in a
Mhm.
curious, like open way and being like, oh, well, who are these people? And what are they doing? Um, a lot of people like leaving bad situations and trying to make a new life. It's all on hope, you know, like it was all on
Mhm.
faith that like we're going to have a better life. This is like the immigrant story of all places.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, that opportunity to build something and to create something on your own. And that's every relationship, everything that you do, every business that you do, um, every interaction that you have. It's just like planting little seeds. So you're just gardening all the time.
Yeah.
And there doesn't have to be a hard out. There doesn't have to be a beginning, middle, and an end. We can come back to things after many years. I just reconnected with someone from like 20 years ago when I lived in New York. I
Mhm.
found him on Instagram and I was like, oh, hey, now you do stand-up comedy. Now I do stand-up comedy. Great. You know, like
Yeah.
what a cool thing. So it's it's exciting. Just whenever it gets anxious or like, you know, a negative feeling comes up, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's just something that needs a little care. It needs a little love. And it's a privilege to be able to stop and do that, but it's something that we should all strive for, you know, like strive to create space in our lives where we can be generous with ourselves.
Well, I love how you described the life experience as a garden and, this more natural, longer game to the
Yes.
moment that you're in. And we're coming from a long history of highly, resilient parents and grandparents who were up against in a way up against, but looking for the same kind of thing that we're looking for when we have a nicer platform from which to bounce off of and into it. Um, so there's this softness to what you said around enjoying the journey and letting things kind of come and go as they want. When we plant seeds in the garden, which, oh my gosh, I could just live out in my garden all the time. I'm not like, you need to grow today because I planted you exactly 73 hours
Yeah,
ago.
let's go. Yeah, there's no
It's
rushing
like,
it.
it's gonna sprout when it's ready to sprout, and they're gonna sprout at different times. And that surrender
Yeah,
is the opposite of that holding on, and that's the putting down of the ego and of the expectation, and being in it more for the love of doing it, whether it's your business or your relationship, and less for getting something out of it, because the something out of it will come.
yeah.
Those seeds will grow eventually, if they're not 100% neglected and ignored. So you're
Sometimes things
and
thrive on neglect, you know?
well,
Like,
yeah,
what
weeds.
can I say?
Weeds.
Like like orchids. You know?
Yeah, yeah, cactus, so good point,
Yeah,
right? Um, and and so we can lean into this more I don't know, floaty and enjoyable space of trust. Like you
yeah,
said, it's trust in you, but trust in that things are changing, evolving, and staying curious about them to see what's going to happen, as opposed to a lot of this anxiety and, you know, desire or hurriedness to get to the end, to get to the next, because it's not the next that's going to reveal something to you. It's the way there that's going to reveal.
yeah, absolutely. It's it's the journey. No,
Yeah, I know it's so
again,
cliche. Like, oh,
it's so the journey. But
somebody
like
says that one more time.
just go with it. I remember a friend of mine in grad school, her mom, anytime someone said it was the journey, her mom just like shut it off. She's like, no, like it's not about the journey. No, but it is. It's about like, okay, you're here and getting the anxiety right. Like I was an anxious person for like
Mhm,
most of my life because that's what
mhm,
I was programmed
mhm,
as, you know,
mhm,
like
mhm,
product of my environment, my upbringing, absolutely. and then choosing to do theater, which is an anxious business because it's a
Sure.
lot of faith,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a lot of like, I don't know, 2 weeks
Mhm.
before the show opens, everything is shit.
Yeah.
Like everything. The rehearsals are terrible, nobody knows their lines, the music is bad, the choreography is wrong, the set's not built, the costumes
Mhm.
aren't done, like 2 weeks before, like it's not gonna work out. And then like the next week, everything like just congeals.
Mhm.
Everybody just like comes together and it gets done. And you put on this amazing show. And so it's like a miracle, like every time. And you just, um, I have a coach who just constantly says, like, don't quit before the miracle, you know,
Mhm. Oh,
and
beautiful.
so the sometimes you don't quit, sometimes you just let it rest,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
again, like fermentation, like
Mhm.
sourdough, like it does it on its own time. Some of them are
Mhm.
fast and some of them are
Yeah.
slow, like
Yeah.
you can't rush it. You can't rush those seeds, but like it's your responsibility to tend. It's your responsibility to tend to yourself,
Mhm.
keep your side of the street clean, and allow for yourself to have a different experience. So, hey, I didn't want to be anxious all the time. So I started meditating and I actively started like changing the thoughts I was telling myself
Yeah.
because that was a revelation for me, getting out of this very literal analytical way of thinking, which was very natural for me. But it didn't really serve my happiness,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and because it didn't serve my happiness, it didn't serve my personal growth.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, like, look, if you're not a cold plunger, great.
Don't
Your
do it.
happiness can also lead to more personal growth. Like your happiness should actually lead to personal growth because it should be inspiring you to push yourself in ways that might be uncomfortable for a minute and then you're okay, like hey, you're okay. So um
Here's a very tangible example of that from my story. I was so um desiring to grow and just like oh flourish, and so personal development I was absorbed, obsessed, and kind of addicted
yeah.
and pushing which is the opposite embodiment of that journey. And I laugh at myself now because I'm like, dude, chill out. Like, you're not training for the Olympics in personal development here, right? It's always a podcast, always a book, always serious. And
Oh, yeah.
now it's more fun, more creative, more soft and relaxing. And I mean, still kind of stretching that out, but I know read for pleasure. What a crazy idea. Listen to a podcast that's just something super random, like a story of interest of some kind, and allowing the other things to drop in and integrate and be processed rather than uh, pursuing it as study, that analytical brain, that same thing, right? And so there's strategy involved, but you mix it with play, and that's where you'll really start to get some magnetism and flourishing, I think. Like fertilizer, the water, the sunlight. Whoosh.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we have seen this in education where
Mhm.
play encourages children to learn,
To
which is
learn,
why
yeah.
everybody's gamifying things. And I don't know if you're on Duolingo, but
I
um,
know of it, yeah, and it's great, right? Because it hooks you with that gamified approach.
yeah, and then you're learning languages.
Yeah.
And, I was never, I think that like burnout and personal development and a lot of the things we've been speaking of, like, are they're symptomatic of this idea of perfectionism, right?
Sure.
And that is an old paradigm that I'm constantly tearing apart, but with love. Uh, but I think that the languages, I was worried about not getting it right.
Mhm.
And Duolingo's like, oh, you didn't get it right. Oh, well, you still
Mhm.
did great. Good job. And like,
Yeah.
and moving on. And it allows you to actually get things wrong in a way where you can learn and go, oh, okay, now I know what I'm doing wrong.
Mhm,
Cool. And the next time I do it right.
mhm,
And I can speak it and I can look at and read it. And it's so much faster. I'm very grateful for all of my language teachers, but
mm.
it's definitely so much faster to pick things up with that when you're like just getting
Having
this,
fun.
when you're having fun, when
100%.
you're having a good time.
Having
Come
fun.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your favorite way to have fun? Right now, right now.
Let me get serious and think about
I'm
that.
get serious about my fun.
To be awake and to be with somebody, but I have a lot of fun by myself too. So,
Huh?
I mean, it's so varied there. I was single for about 8 years and I learned to be my own best friend in
Yeah.
that time, or I chose to be, and I really love who I am. And so then that just lends itself to everything. I mean, I deal with very serious things at work. Take my coaching business very seriously because people are trusting me in their expansion journey. But my core values are love, service, ambition, and levity.
Yeah.
And I'm 42 disguised as a 5-year old. So like my daughter and I are just ridiculous together. And I think it's that being able to bring it in anytime. This is fun. What I'm going to do next is fun. Hanging out by myself is fun. I just tell jokes, crack myself.
Yeah.
Being able to tap into that, relax into that. I've been a very serious person for most of my life, right? My dad's programming, my um, horoscope imprint, the things that the world was telling me about myself, and now I have this beautiful set of skills that can provide the structure, but then really mix it in with the messy paint, if you will.
Oh,
So
yeah.
silliness is just the best.
It's the best. Well, this is the beginner mind, this is what all my learning about art, right?
Mm,
Like all my training, it's you get to know the rules so you can break them, but it's all about having that beginner's mindset and having a fresh eye for
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And that's what we're looking for. We don't want that. We don't want regurgitated somebody else's stuff.
Mhm,
Like we want fresh stuff. We want new,
mhm.
what's fresh and new, like we want to be delighted. That's like the human experience. So how delightful to have a little friend that you made, that you can enjoy, like
Yeah.
having that fresh eye, those really like beautiful moments together.
Well, and it allows me to express myself too, right? So wherever you find that, feed it because you won't take yourself as seriously, but that doesn't mean you won't be serious. So cliche.
Serious, 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 not so serious.
But I don't know if I can further unpack that, but you build your trust through being able to be silly, through being able to make mistakes, and all of the beautiful things that we've talked about. And so do you have some final words of wisdom, or do you wanna share back how you like to have fun?
Oh, how do I like to have fun?
Yeah.
Um, what is fun for me? So many things are fun for me. I mean, honestly, like I'm constantly delighted, which is a blessing and a curse because very like,
The creative mind, right?
yeah, the creative mind is like, oh, I'm going to do this now, so I can be derailed rather easily. But
Yeah.
I'm improving on my focus. Um, I right now am loving I'm loving knitting right now.
Awesome.
Um, I started as a kid and I'm a habitual collector. So I have a lot of yarn and
Mhm.
I'm excavating that as I'm moving. And
I
so
guess
that
so.
having
It'd be a
to,
light box though, wouldn't it? Like,
well, if it was only one box, yes. I at one point had yarn in 3 states. So
oh, fun.
yeah, yeah. I went big. I think my parents were like, well, we'll just keep buying her yarn because it's not drugs. They were like, She won't do coke if we keep having her buy yarn. Here you go.
Yeah.
Um, so anyways, I have a lot of yarn. Um, and it's so great because it's so full of possibility,
There you
right?
go.
Like
Mhm,
you're like, ooh, it's a little
mhm,
invitation about
mhm.
like, what do I get to create? And, who will I make this for? And what will this become?
I'll
And
say that again. It's a little invitation to
yeah,
create who are you going to make it for and what will it become. That is so beautiful. What a way to live. Boom, mic
yeah.
drop.
Go support your local yarn shop,
Well,
everyone.
it's just the metaphor of it, right? If we
Yeah,
take that approach in the daily doings of things, of being, how much more fun and impact and permission are you going to have in your experience?
yeah. And something dear, something
Mhm,
that you like, that you made of your
mhm.
own,
Yeah,
from your own mind.
yeah,
Everyone who knits is a designer because they're all making
absolutely,
choices.
absolutely.
So yeah, it's full of yeah, I think, I don't know if it was Bronte or Dickinson who said it. I think it was one of the Emilys, but um,
It
pregnant with
was
pop.
you. You're one of the
It's me,
Emilys.
it's the other Emily. Bronte, Dickinson, Taradash, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm in good company. And, and I'm in good company with you. It's such a
Yeah.
pleasure to be with you, Mia.
Yeah, it's been such a delight, and I just look forward to, maintaining our connection and doing more and having fun together and helping people relax into who they are, not be so
Yeah.
serious, but not, be so like flighty that nothing's happening either.
Well, yeah, it's a choice, like everything is a choice. So you get to decide how you're showing up, who you are, what do you want to be,
Yeah.
right? And then uh it's about sticking with that. So it shouldn't be so outside the box that you're like having to remember who you were.
There
You
you
should
go.
be making the choice to be honest as much as possible, um, without having to like rain on other people's parades.
So if people want to get into your space, you've got a booking link where you do a half an hour consult, which
I
is so
do.
great, like a first date with
Exactly.
Emily to see how it goes.
And a moose bouche, if you will.
There you go. And it will be, no doubt. So that link will be in the episode description, and then you can find her on socials and just get in her space because she's a blast and just beautiful energy to be around. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I thank you so much for your time and attention and wisdom. And that's the end of this episode, and but not the end of us.
Definitely not. Thank you. Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
Thanks, Emily.